Welcome back to the movie show. It's me, Ella Gabby. Today we're reviewing The Substance. I realize that you're putting the mic in front of my mouth and I'm putting the mic on my actual mouth.
Oh no, yeah, you're talking. I'm talking through you.
Yeah, that movie, it had The Substance.
I'm so happy that I actually saw it in theaters. From the trailer, I didn't really know what it was about, and maybe that's why I wasn't as hype about it. But that's because they left so much of the shock value for the movie experience. They were considerate of their audience because they wanted to leave the best shit for when you're actually watching the movie.
They were actually able to pull me in with just the vibes and what it was going to look like. And Margaret Qualley, for me personally, because I absolutely adore her. Yeah. And I didn't feel like I knew anything that was going to happen during the movie whatsoever.
I didn't even know it was a horror movie until you told me when we were on the way to go see the movie. As a whole, before we even get into the details of this movie, I thought it was funny, creatively written.
For lack of a better words, for this movie specifically, it was fresh, young, new, just completely new and amazing. I mean, I definitely felt like there was pulls from other movies. I could not stop thinking about The Fly the entire movie, and I was giggling just thinking about like Freaky Friday.
Really? Freaky Friday? I didn't get that
just
at all.
because Freaky Friday is coming out, and it was just like this young and old person switching places, and I was like, oh, it's Freaky Friday too.
Wait, that's so funny.
I have to take this mask off.
I
wanna die.
Yeah, reveal.
Oh, it like ripped off my makeup.
It's actually me. Okay, so what I was thinking of when I was watching this movie, I was actually thinking of the show Severance, which is an Apple TV show. And the basis of that movie is they split your mind in half. So when you go to work, you don't remember your outside life, your personal life. But when you're living your...
That's what Severance is about?
Yeah, but when you're living your personal life, you don't remember your work life. And that's a way for you to...
have amazing work-life balance?
Yeah, I guess so. But of course, it turns on...
Wait, now I want to watch that so bad. I thought that was just like a finance bro show.
No, it has like a weird sci-fi kind of element to it. But that show, I thought that I do really like Severance. It's a very kind of long, drawn out show, though. Right. That's the only thing. But I still enjoyed it. This movie, however, it was hot. And it was sexy. It was hot. It was fun.
And it was sexy even in the parts that were not sex. Like the very beginning opening scene, we were already like looking at each other and like hitting each other like this is going to be it. Like just the fucking egg getting a little shot was sexy.
No, everything was so visually pleasing. And the opening scene where it shows her Hollywood star sign, I thought was such a creative way to showing you the rise and fall of Elizabeth's career and setting up her character completely without showing you actually what happens. They don't treat their audience like they're dumb.
Exactly. And it's something that we can all relate to. It's like, we've seen so many stars rise and fall, and you could have the most important accolade of your life, like an Oscar. They showed all her Emmys, a star, and you're going to go take a picture when they do that. And eventually people are just going to be taking a shit on the sidewalk on your star. And we usually don't even talk about what we're going to talk about beforehand because we just don't really want to know what each other's thoughts are. Yeah. But we really wanted to unpack this. I feel like there's so much that we wanted to talk about. Yeah. And we really couldn't even hold it in. Like even during the movie, we were just like looking at each other like I just knew that we both were loving it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think this movie covers, I mean, it's a great story, but I think it also resonates, especially with women and what we face when it comes to aging and the pressures of how we look, especially when it ties to your career. If you're in, especially now with social media too, it's like everybody has this identity with how they look because everyone's so present on social media. So whether you're a star or not, I think so many people already deal with the idea of aging and being on a clock and being scared of, the consequences of that. Because even though Demi Moore, she is beautiful throughout this movie. I mean, not the whole way through, but
she doesn't see it. She doesn't see it, and you do see it. And I thought that was good. If they had taken someone that you're like, oh yeah, she's kind of middle-aged and she's kind of fat and she's kind of ugly. They took someone that's gorgeous, that has normal flaws that even I as a 28-year-old have, and can watch and be like, wow, as an unbiased outside person, she looks amazing, but I know exactly what she's feeling when she's body checking in the mirror and picking apart her body. I know exactly what she's feeling.
She's looking at herself a totally different way than I'm seeing her, because I'm like, if I was her age looking that fine, I'm going to be like, damn, I'm winning.
I would have just gone to another studio and made my own shit, or gone on YouTube and made my own channel and done my own thing. I think this is the ultimate horror movie for women, and maybe it's the ultimate horror movie for me. One of my fixations throughout my entire 20s, since I've been 22, is being too old, especially being a YouTuber, especially wanting to do something in acting and feeling like I have this time clock. And the night before we watched this movie, me and Allison were having this deep conversation about how I want to let that go so badly, and how it can consume so much of your thoughts. And I don't even, it goes past being vain, because I do think there's an element of being vain in our society, especially when it's tied to capitalism and someone being able to sell you something to make you feel better about yourself. And you're scrolling TikTok and it's constantly skincare and skin wands and tightening and pills and this and that. But it also goes further into how you're perceived, because even if she had done the inner work and felt better about herself, she still would have been fired. And she still would have felt those consequences. Maybe she would have been like, F you, and then she would have felt better about it and she wouldn't have cared. She could have just gone and enjoyed her money. But
the fact of the matter was, she lost her job because of her age. Whether she feels confident in her age or not, that was still a consequence of her getting older. And it really was her manager. But I also noticed that her manager was the only thing that seemed very present in her life. She didn't have family. She didn't have friends. This girl was gone for 3 months, and there wasn't an investigation for her for a missing person.
The one person that gave a shit about her was a guy that knew her from 10th grade homeroom.
And that's who she had to reach out to. She clearly had some other issues going on, and that's why she had deep issues. And that's why she felt so confident with moving forward with that, honestly, so easily too. Because she didn't really put that much thought into it.
No, she really didn't. I mean, I think she was depressed. It's almost like when people are to the point where it's like, she really could have just been suicidal. I think she even was like sad after the car crash when she didn't die. She was like, I felt like she was like, oh, which
she's still there. And I totally forgot about that scene.
I wanted to say, when that happened, I forgot to write it down. That was like the most realistic car crash
I had ever
seen in a movie. I was cringing because I just felt the crunching and it was so loud. That was really good.
I did too. That was, I think, the one scene that I really was like, I can't look at that, because it's already a fear of mine.
It's way too realistic.
It was so realistic. There were so many scenes that felt the most realistic. I think the high definition of this movie, it was still stylized and it looked super cool, but I'm going to fast forward a little bit. But when she was bashing her head against the mirror back and forth, my God, I was like, wow, they really gave you everything. They gave you all of the juices.
And that's something I really like in horror, is hyper realism. That affects me way more than anything else. I think we should talk about her manager more.
Dennis Quaid.
I mean, I was shocked by him.
Didn't you say Ray Liotta was supposed to play him?
Or I thought it was you that told me that. Maybe it was my cousin. I think she Googled it, and I was like, I like Ray Liotta. R.I.P. But Dennis Quaid,
he has a cartoonish kind of aesthetic to him too, which really fit the role, because he's just supposed to be obnoxious and exaggerated. I think out of all the gory scenes in this film, the scene with him eating the shrimp was probably the nastiest to me.
But you know what? I was enamored by everything I was seeing. I was like, this is like new camera angles, new way of doing film, sound effects. I was like, how is this meeting somewhere in between? Like, it has like Scott Pilgrim elements, like all the sounds. It was cartoony. The way people were acting was kind of like 80s corny, but also super fresh and new.
Right. It was kind of goofy. It had a lot of humor, which it was very subtle. It wasn't like comedy humor, but it was just like when everybody started standing up in the auditorium at the end, they were like, ah! It was just so like 80s horror kind of, or like honestly even 50s horror.
It was retrofuturism too. I mean, there was a lot of well, first of all, they're not watching like HBO, they're watching cable TV, but on a TV that has a USB. But then they had, I feel like there was more like 80s. I mean, first of all, her apartment, she's rich and her apartment is like 80s glam,
and the workout videos that she was making was very 80s.
It was like an alternate universe, as if you had hit the 80s but you had already had like your iPhone, which was really cool.
That is cool. It's like a totally new universe.
I absolutely loved it. Something I wanted to ask you just what your thoughts were, because I kept thinking about it the whole movie. I was like, what is the gain of this company, the substance?
I had the same exact idea. So I thought that after she did the activation process, that's when they would be asking her, okay, well, now the refill is going to be $500,000.
Right.
And that it was going to be a money thing.
Right.
Or it's an experimentation thing. But that didn't feel like it suit either, because they weren't watching her. At least we don't know.
Right. And they didn't care. Like
they didn't care.
You would think like if it was like a human clinical trial and she's like, hey, my finger's rotting off my body. They'd be like, oh, let us come check that out. We need to know what that's all about. Yeah, we're not going to fix it, but we just want to know what happens.
Right.
Kind of thing. I mean, I was thinking that maybe it's these companies. I thought it was really weird when Dennis Quaid was like, oh, we'll work around any schedule that you have at all. And then I was like, maybe it's these television companies that want their people to be motivated to go be young. Like, we'll fire them and then they'll go fix it and come back.
Yeah, that's actually what I thought was going to be the twist of this film, was when she came back as the monster, and it was actually a dream sequence, and everybody was like, hey, you're back, you made it. I thought it was like they knew all along.
Right.
And it was like this cult that was manipulating her, and that was the end result that they wanted. And they were like, yay, you're here, and congratulating her for going through that whole process.
Right.
But yeah, we never really got any insight to the company, and I thought that was actually reasonable in contrast to the movie Cuckoo, where I thought it was necessary for you to understand what the company was doing, because you already see all the people involved, you see their labs, and they actually have some kind of purpose, but they never expressed it. At least in this case, they're anonymous since the beginning, so it's always a mystery, and I feel like that's fine.
And it's not really intertwined into the plot, which I liked, because it's almost like the company is the societal pressure and what you're willing to give. I the entire time was thinking about how much pain that women are capable and willing to endure. Like, she was decaying and her having to break her leg back into place to walk, and she still thought it was worth it to continue. The amount of pain people go through surgeries and everything that they do to look better, and it's not easy and it's painful. And it costs a lot of money, and there's cost. They're like, she's taking from you, and it's like, literally chasing youth takes from you financially, pain-wise, mentally. It's all draining. Right.
We're just watching it through her experience. We're kind of just going through the journey with her. And I thought it was kind of confusing. I thought when she would take this, that she would actually be the one living through the youthful side of herself. But it really just seems like she birthed a new person that's living a great life, and she doesn't get the benefits of that amazing life because she totally forgets it when she goes back to her other body.
I don't think she totally forgets it. I think she is connected. They are one, but they are split. So it's like if you had a clone, and I was kind of thinking of it as if you had like twin telepathy, because when she comes out of her body originally and she's looking in the mirror, she's in shock. Like she still remembers being the older woman. I think the further that she gets, the more she gets disconnected and wants to kill that part of her. Like she's more and more and more ashamed of this old person, the more she's comfortable and used to being this young person and getting more and more and more attention.
Right. She's like, I don't want to go back.
Right. And that version of her is bitter. And I think they start becoming more and more and more separate. But I think they start off, it's her from at the beginning.
Yeah. Right. Like what you said, when she's looking in the mirror and she's so in shock and she's like feeling her plump ass for the first time in years.
Yeah. Dude, the director, she was like obsessed with asses. And I was like, which I was going to say that I think it can toe the line of being like, okay, well, this whole movie is about how women are subjected and objectified. Yeah. And now I'm zooming in on every single ass. But that is how the world sees women, as a piece of ass.
There was a lot of ass. And sometimes I felt like, I was like, all right, this is going on for 5 minutes now.
Well, I was like, show me Margaret Qualley's ass again. Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine.
You're like, I can have another scene of that.
I'm like in love with her. She's so fucking sexy. Oh my God.
I thought it was very metaphoric in a way, how she was so displeased with the way that she looked. And it wasn't until she actually became an old hag that she could truly appreciate the way that she looked prior to the activation. And that's when she started digging out her old photo that she had hanged up, and she's looking at herself at how youthful she is. And I think that also is so relatable to how women see themselves. You know, people in their 30s be like, oh my God, I'm so old. But it's like, okay, but when you're 50, you're gonna look at being 30 and being like, oh my God, I was so young. And when you're 50, you're gonna be like, oh, now I'm so old. But when you're 70, you're gonna look at yourself when you're 50 and be like, oh my God, I had so much youth. And that's the thing, is where we are in the present moment is the youngest we will ever get to experience ourselves. So instead of thinking about who we were in the past or who we're going to look like in the future, right now who we are is the most healthiest, youthful version of ourselves that we just need to embrace.
Right. Well, and even further than that, the young person is always going to live inside you. The older that I've gotten, and being 28, I think a big part of the fight of feeling like I want to be younger is that I feel the same, and that I don't want to be perceived like when I introduce myself to someone and they're like, oh, you look 22, and it's like supposed to be a compliment, but it's kind of like, oh fuck, I feel 22. I don't want it to be this big shock that I'm 28, as if I'm so old. And that young person's always going to live inside of you. And the more you take care of yourself, and the more that you let yourself feel youthful and act like you're young and do whatever you want as long as you can, nobody can take that away from you. You could be 70 dressing however the fuck you want, wearing whatever makeup you want, and living the life that you want to live.
I totally agree. I think the youth comes from the way that you carry yourself and the energy that you can bring to whatever you're doing. You're old when you decide you're old. You're as young as you choose to allow yourself to be. Fucking the ultimate horror movie for women. That was good. That was good.
We talked about the opening sequence, but to go back to that, something that I love in movies is when you're 20 minutes into the movie and the title card comes up. They took that even further to where it was like seamless in the movie. She's like looking at the card and it says the substance, and then that's the title card.
When you're actually introduced to the substance,
I was like, I eat that shit up.
Yeah. No, and the marketing for the substance, like, I'm sorry, but they kind of ate with the packaging, with the utensils, like the business card. I was like, wow.
All of this, I was thinking about that the whole time. All of the tools that they had to think of for the movie, I was like, why is this like cunt? This is like these tubes that like go from her to her, and these little vials, and then you have to take one big vial and then put it into another one. The food that just leaks perfectly for a whole week. Like, all of that was amazing.
No,
fantastic.
Yeah, the marketing for that brand, honestly, I can see why people would be convinced. It looks legit.
I was kind of like convinced at the beginning. I was like, okay.
Yeah. The only non-legit part was her having to crawl through the door to get inside to pick up her delivery. That was so funny. I was like, girl, you're also by yourself and you're about to go inside of this building, this warehouse, by yourself where the door won't even open.
I feel like for women, I mean, this movie is created by a woman. Her name's Coralie. I forget her last name. But I feel like if you're a woman watching it, you understand her desperation more by seeing, okay, already I'm walking somewhere.
Yeah.
Then I get
in
to
an alley.
I go to the wrong neighborhood. and I'm walking the other way. No, she was desperate enough to keep going. Then you get to this sketchy ass building that's like, clearly you're going to get sex trafficked and you're still willing to keep going. Right. Then they open the door only a little bit. You're still willing to keep going. And the fact that she was dressed like fucking Coraline with a yellow coat and a blue outfit and she had to crawl through a little tunnel to get to her other self. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. One thing that I thought that the lens quality, or just like the style of the film, it felt like very reminiscent of just how things are very glamorized, that high definition. It felt very like LA, even like
super LA,
kind of like surface level. I mean, not that LA, all of it is like that, but it felt very surreal.
Right. It did feel, it's like you're in the dreamland.
Right.
And it was like Barbie land. I thought it was like 80s Barbie. Like, it's kind of how we're dressed right now. We're like, like 80s Barbie. That was, even all the transitions, I just realized with you saying that, they did so much transitions looking at the palm trees. Like, it's like, you're like, it's LA. I'm here. Like, I have to fit in. The ending was the ending that I've been waiting for maybe my entire life.
Oh my God. I just loved how they just gave you everything that you could have possibly wanted. At one point, I was thinking like, what would happen if Sue took the activator? They gave me that.
They gave me everything.
When we saw the monster, I thought, oh, we see the monster in the mirror. That's probably going to be it. Because usually you see the monster for a moment. Right. No, we got to see the monster put on a dress, go to the stage, and do a whole
speech, spewing blood for way longer than necessary. She was like just shitting on the patriarchy. It was like a demented, disgusting, gooey Carrie scene.
Yes, literally. And the boob just came and popped out of her shoulder onto the floor, and then you can see Demi Moore's face on the back.
He can't even. And she was like, and she wanted to say she couldn't. Dude, my jaw actually dropped about 5 or 6 times throughout the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, full, like.
There were so many scenes too, like when it came to like her pulling out her teeth or her picking her nails. Like, this was the kind of gore that when I saw it, I was like touching my nails as she was peeling it, or like touching my skin in the same place that it was, you know, when she had that huge laceration on her back and she was sewing it. I was like, I was joyfully disgusted. Honestly,
that's how I felt the whole time. Like, we watched it with my mom, which I was like, not a movie for my mom. She was like, that was disgusting. I was like, I loved every part of it. She's like, what about it? I was like, everything. And you know what? I'm not good with body horror. Like, repulsive. I can't watch someone like get their leg chopped off or stabbed, or like, I can't. It's hard for me usually. Yeah. But because it was kind of cartoony, and because I was so amazed at how good the movie was, none of it was disgusting me. I was like so happy. I was like, give me more goo, please.
Seriously, and it looked so real. Barely. I think the only part that looked CGI to me was when Elizabeth's face
was melting into the star.
Yes, was melting into the star, but even when it was kind of crawling up to the star, but that was it. Everything else, the makeup, the prosthetics, fucking amazing. Yeah. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I think this blew me out of the water. Honestly, I was sitting there before the movie even ended, and I was like, 5 out of 5.
I was so energetic at the end of the movie. I was literally dancing in my seat, like jumping up and down. I was like, that is a movie. That is a movie.
No, literally, I was in my recliner, like, we were like, yeah.
The credit song was amazing. I was like,
I don't even remember.
I was like, I just know I was dancing.
I just know I was dancing.
I just know I was dancing. I think this was amazing casting. I think Margaret Qualley is able to be extremely sexy. She's sexy in a lot of movies, but she has depth and she has subtlety and character. She was able to, even just the way that she was acting when she was alone, the persona she had when she was like with men, she was like dominatrix, but then when she's like in the office and trying to win people over, she's like super bubblegum and like little girly, just like all the different faces that women have. I feel like,
and then when she's so kicking Elizabeth on the floor as an old woman,
oh my god, after she took the activator, my cousin was like, how does she have like super strength? I was like, I feel like it's like the activator, like she's just getting stronger. Well, she like stabbed her in the heart with that shit, so I felt felt like it was like an EpiPen. Like she was like full of adrenaline, and she was like kicking her across the room. That was hilarious.
She was superhuman.
It was amazing. I loved that shit. I just watched The Fly for the first time only a few months ago, so maybe that's why it's so fresh. But she looked so much like The Fly at the end.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of parallels in that his character is so obsessed with this experiment and wanting to keep it going and feeling like now I have all these powers and I have all these good things, that he was unwilling to let it go, and he devolved into this disgusting rotted thing that looked so similar to me. Yeah. Which that's why I especially was like, this is so 80s horror. This director has to love Cronenberg. She has to.
Like, yes, when Jeff Goldblum would be talking, he'd be like, and so when you use the system and then you put the code, and he'd be like, I'm a fly, I'm Jeff Goldblum and I'm a fly. Yeah.
I feel like that would be like a great double feature. This is a movie.
The double features, The Substance / The Fly.
I feel like it's been years since I've watched a movie in the theaters that's brand new that I feel like is an instant classic. Honestly, Poor Things is probably the other movie that I saw in like the last couple of years that I thought like Poor Things is a classic. It's amazing, but this is just something completely new.
Sorry, I think it blew Poor Things out of the water.
I do too.
I was actually, that's crazy that you said that it's an instant classic, because I was already thinking like, while we were leaving the movie, like, this is going to be a movie that I talk about when I'm 50 years old and be like, oh, I remember seeing that in theaters.
Yeah. I'm smiling right now. Yeah. I love when movies make me feel this way. Watch this in theaters. This is not going to hit nearly as hard on your TV at home or your laptop.
Do not watch it on your laptop.
Watch it in person, and if you can go watch it in a packed theater, it'd be better. I wish that I had more people around me reacting throughout the movie.
We were the only ones laughing and being like, oh, like while we were watching it. It was just us and the people we went with. Everybody else was mad silent. Yeah. I also think that this would be a great movie to see in the best quality that's available in your theater, because it's so high def. Watch it in Dolby. Honestly, right?
Yeah.
This movie is visually striking.
We had no plans on reviewing this.
No plans, but after we saw it,
it was an emergency.
It was literally, we're like, there's no questions about it.
You know what? And I want to say this. I feel like Demi Moore, I feel like a lot of people have talked about, she has like plastic surgery and work on her face.
Yeah.
And she's fallen off so much. And I feel like this was such a vulnerable movie for her.
Right.
And from at the beginning, we said like there was a lot of, it was a little bit goofy and otherworldly, so like I couldn't tell how her acting was at first, but the more and more she gave, she was willing to be naked, she was willing to be disgusting, she was willing to be vulnerable and angry, and her teeth were rotting, and she was like screaming, throwing food at the TV.
What a comeback.
It was like, I was getting chills. I think that her performance was amazing, and I know that horror movies aren't often considered for awards, but God damn, I hope that she gets some accolades from this, and I hope I see her more.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite scenes of her in this film was when she was having that manic, crazy episode in front of the mirror, and she was like, going crazy, pulling her hair, smudging her makeup, like she just had it. You could tell that was the last straw for her.
Yeah.
And that scene was like, wow.
It was intense. She had like a lot of scenes like that. She had to...
Yes, playing the old woman alone.
She had to go there like so many times. Oh, one more thing, and not that it's that important, but when she runs into the guy who convinced her to take the substance, and he's like, oh, is she taking from you yet? It's like, yeah, a lot of the times the people that are going to convince you that you need this and that and that you need surgery are suffering themselves.
They're the most insecure.
They're extremely insecure. Yeah. And I think that gave a little bit more transparency and a little bit of anti-glamour to being famous. I think a lot of youth right now is obsessed with being famous.
And celebrity culture
is extremely toxic, and it's so intertwined in our lives and in the youth's face and in young women's faces. I think this is a great movie to expose that.
Especially with skincare too, and how even the term anti-aging has come about,
right.
which it just puts such a negative connotation to getting
taking
older.
Care of yourself too.
Yeah.
It's like now
you want to take care of yourself to anti-age, to look younger.
Right.
Like, it's not about looking younger. I just want to preserve my skin.
Right.
I'm not trying to be something that I'm not. Actually, I think this movie doesn't, not that it doesn't resonate with me. I totally understand. But I personally haven't like dealt too much with the fear of aging.
I wish I felt like that. I still do. It's something I'm fighting. And even though I can recognize it and see that it's not rational and it's not healthy, I still feel that way. If anyone else is struggling with this, I think that if you can compartmentalize to being like, I'm young now and I'll worry about that when I am old. And maybe you will feel like that sometimes when you're 40, but if you can at least live in the moment and enjoy now, you're not going to regret that.
Yeah. I feel like especially if you're in your 20s and 30s, you're young as fuck.
Right.
Forget about age.
Forget about it. Well, I think we got it all.
I think we really covered. This is an amazing movie. 5 out of 5.
5
genuinely.
out of 5, 10 out of 10, whatever stars you want to use, bitch.
Yeah.
It's a banger.
It's a banger. And
I know bangers.
Watch it again.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you already have if you're watching this.
Yeah, I hope you watched it before you watched this.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.